Welcome to the Bonner Breakdown. The Bonner Breakdown is here for conversation, connection, and to find things to celebrate. Get your glass, cup, or mug ready as we celebrate with a cheers to the good report. In today's episode, we have Ron Korn, who organized the activities on the 4th of July. We discuss his personal story, the 4th of July process, and local and national politics. You can find out more about this podcast at bonnerbreakdown.com. You can also support this episode and get access to our hosts' afterthoughts from this episode on patreon.com/bonnerbreakdown. We hope that you enjoy today's episode.
Well, here we are on another episode of the Bonner Breakdown. I'm here with Ron Korn. Ron, it's nice to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and congratulations on a very successful 4th of July extravaganza.
Thanks.
Right? I mean, that was a lot. It was a lot of things going on. So we're going to dig into that, and I want people to hear your story a little bit and kind of how the process was for you there. First thing that we do every single episode is we do what's called the Good Report. And what we're looking for is some type of good news. That's usually not the first thing that you hear on a news broadcast. Not that we're journalists here, but as far as most media does not focus on the good. So we want to start there, and then if it goes sideways from there, it's okay. But so do you have a good report? Anything that you'd want to share?
I've got to say, Chris, that the good report would have to include the way the community came together.
Come on.
For this whole 4th of July thing.
That's awesome.
Very impressed. I had no idea it would grow as fast as it did, as big as it did. It was overwhelming for me, and it was reassuring to me that there's still a ton of good people here.
Come on.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then, I would say that it was just looking at the data on the COVID-19 stuff, and this is the good report. We've only had one death in the five northern counties of the Panhandle total since the very beginning. And when there's the craziness of the fear attached to COVID is real, because, people are dying, and yet, we've only had 22 hospitalizations since the very beginning of the process. And being a county of five northern counties of 246,000 people, we're looking at, the percentages of less than 1/100%
right.
of hospitalization, so I just really am grateful for that. I think it's a good report to say, wow, the cases are on the rise, and yet we're not seeing the hospitals overrun and flooded, and the capacity hasn't been, which was the big fear at the beginning.
Right.
But that hasn't been the case. And so that to me is really, really good news. So cheers. Cheers to the good report. All right. Awesome. I say it every time. It always tastes better together.
It
tastes better together. So Ron, we want to get a little bit of your story and find out a little bit more about you. So give us kind of your history and what your life's been like.
Oh, I moved up here in 98, over 20 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And got involved. We didn't have kids at the time.
Okay, now you're married?
I'm married and have 3 children right now.
Okay,
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you
and so
to alternative medicine.
Okay, all right. Awesome.
Yeah, we couldn't have kids.
Okay.
We were told that we couldn't have kids. And so we finally came to the realization that wasn't going to happen. And I moved up here, my wife and I, and we got involved with a friend of ours in Colorado that was studying to be a master herbologist. And so she's like, well, have you tried herbs? And we're like, we've tried everything. We've tried iridology.
Yeah.
We've tried everything we can think of. And it's like, no, we haven't tried herbs. Call this guy in Utah, talk to him on the phone, and he'll, kind of walk you through to see if he can help you or not. So my wife did, and ordered some of the herbs and made the pills ourselves, And the funny thing is, I don't think it was more than a month later, she was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Firm believer. and the herbs and all. Now we have 3 kids,
That's awesome.
and so all born at home. And yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's great.
my oldest is going into his 3rd year in college.
Wow.
And my middle daughter, Katie, she just graduated high school.
Okay.
Through the whole COVID thing.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then my youngest, Tyler, is going to be a junior this year.
Okay. Awesome.
So blessed.
Yeah, that's so great. Yeah. And, my wife's a naturopath and acupuncturist. And so, when people talk about, have you tried X, Y, and Z? I'm like, there's more options out there than you think.
There's a ton of
There's a
options.
ton of options. So,
Yes.
that's pretty cool. So what was the draw to Sandpoint? Like, why would you say, oh, I'm going to come up here in North Idaho?
A friend of ours, I was actually looking at Bullhead City. I'm a river rat.
Okay.
Like water skiing,
Okay.
like the river, like the fast boats.
Uh-huh.
And was headed towards Bullhead, Arizona, when a friend of ours was moving up to Post Falls,
Oh, okay.
moving his business up. And he's like, well, have you guys looked at North Idaho or thought about North Idaho? And I'm like, I don't even know where that is,
Yeah.
Never heard of it, right?
Yeah.
So we drove up here in an 85 IROC Camaro in the middle of winter. Interesting.
That rear
drove
wheel
up here.
drive, man.
Oh, yeah.
Woo.
Yep. Wanted to see it at its worst, right? So we came up to Coeur d'Alene, was checking out Post Falls and all. And I'm a country boy. And it was just too big of a city for me.
Yeah, okay.
It wasn't doing anything for me. And I think it was the last day we were here. We're like, hey, let's go drive up north on 95. Let's go check it out. And like everybody else says, we drove across the Long Bridge, and being a water person and everything else, it was like, oh, this is heaven. Driving into small town Sandpoint, all the brick mortar buildings and all. And it's like, this is what I'm used to as a kid.
That's cool.
So, yeah, sold us on it. And a couple, 3 years later, we ended up moving there.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome. And so you move up here about 20 years ago, and kind of what have you been doing since then, work-wise? What's your...
I'm a builder.
Uh-huh.
Do a lot of handyman stuff. And my wife was a stay-at-home mom for many, many years, having the 3 kids. That's basically what I was doing. I got into volunteer work a couple years after we moved here. I got into search and rescue.
Okay.
Got involved with that and worked my way up the ladder there. Became, I think I was the training officer first, and then vice president, and then I actually became the commander of search and rescue.
Okay.
Met a lot of great people. It was nice. It was, at that time, that was before smartphones still. So, I mean, we were actually getting calls back in the day. Lost snowmobilers, lost huckleberry pickers, some water rescues. I mean, a couple calls a month.
Wow.
And it was fun. That was a good way for us to introduce ourselves to the community. And so, yeah, I've been involved with that for over 20 years now.
Wow. Yeah. And you're still working with search and rescue?
We are, but currently not working with the sheriff at this time.
Okay.
Yeah. A few years ago, and I can't even tell you what happened, to be honest with you. But there was a falling out between the sheriff and our organization, and yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah. I wonder if was it a funding issue? Because usually when there's no explanation, I always go, where's the money flow?
Right.
So that's just something.
Yeah, I truly can't answer that.
Yeah. Okay. What is some of the things that, since you've been to Sandpoint, that you absolutely just love about this area? I mean, you've been here 20 years. What are some things that you just really appreciate and value about this place we live?
The people. I come from, Southern California, like a lot of other people do. And first thing when I say Southern California,
think
a lot
LA.
of people, LA. Yeah. LA.
Orange County. Okay.
Yeah. I grew up in a little town called Fallbrook. It was all avocado trees and orange groves.
Okay.
My dad was in the heavy equipment business, and we were all in 4-H and Boy Scouts and riding dirt bikes down, the main street of our town, and cops shaking their finger at you, It was just good small town USA. And that's why I fell in love with Sandpoint 20 years ago, because it was that same feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
People waving at you all the time. Wasn't used to that so much because our town grew so fast. such as Sandpoint is now, we used to just drive down the road and you're just constantly waving at everybody because you knew everyone.
Yeah.
And it was just a cool
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, things change.
Yeah. So what are some things that you've seen really change here over the years?
The amount of people,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Which I get, being in the construction business and friends that are realtors, it's great for business. But on the other hand, I think our quality of life kind of diminishes to a point, unfortunately. Schools get bigger.
Yep.
Roads get busier.
Yep.
When I moved here over 20 years ago, I could drive down 95 and, pass 10 cars between here and Coeur d'Alene.
Yep.
And it's crazy now.
Yep.
But it is what it is.
Yep.
It's a great place to live. It's a great place to move to. There's a lot of people wanting to get out of the situation that they're in now.
Yeah.
And I can't blame them.
No.
As long as they come here with...
Man, I'm grateful. Hey. I'm grateful to be where we are, and living up here. It's just, things change, and we all know things change. But, I think one of the big questions is always, how do we change?
Right.
Like, what are we changing to? Who are we becoming as a community? Those are the types of questions I don't think we often take the time to ask.
Right.
Because we're just reacting to growth instead of choosing to grow a certain way and be a certain type of people, So those are all challenges, man. Big challenges.
They are.
Yeah. So one of the things that happened is obviously with COVID-19, there's been a lot of things that have been shut down, a lot of businesses shut down. I think it's created a lot of stress in the community. But one of the things that happened was the Lions Club said they weren't going to continue, or they were not going to put on the parade this year.
Right.
And we talked a little bit earlier, and you said, this is where you drew a line in the sand.
That was my line in the sand.
So tell me about that concept of why was that a line in the sand for you?
I consider myself a proud American.
Okay.
And along with that comes obviously the 4th of July, the birth of our nation.
Right.
When I saw the COVID come around, at first I was worried, like most people were.
Yeah.
And then I kind of started seeing through some of it. And it's like, well, it's not as bad as what I was told it was going to be.
Right.
As a Christian, I was very upset that they had closed the churches for Easter, which is the largest celebration of Christianity. Very disappointed there. One thing after another. My daughter graduated high school this year, and they said they're not going to graduate, and they kind of played back and forth with how they were going to do it or if they were going to do it, and the rules and being told what to do, what not to do, just really was starting to work on me. And I wasn't feeling like a free American anymore. Bottom line.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And then Facebook,
Oh boy. The big elephant in the room, man.
Again, I read that 4th of July was canceled. And me, like a lot of other people, all of a sudden assumed that it was the city. Right? Okay. So it wasn't the city, it was the Lions Club.
Right.
And from what I understand, there are a lot of elderly people in the Lions Club. And I don't think that they went out and did their fundraising this year because of the COVID.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and hey, man, they're usually raffling off ATVs.
Exactly.
They got all types of you go to Yoke, Super One, whatever. They got a booth and they got a thing there, and they're selling raffle tickets all year.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. So that has not been happening.
No.
Okay.
No. So I don't think that they had the money.
Sure.
To do it for obvious reasons because they weren't able to do the fundraising.
Sure.
And I don't know if they even really wanted to still come out and do what is necessary to put on the 4th of July.
I think that's such a challenge. I think that is a challenging thing, not only looking at the age demographic and knowing that the most susceptible age groups are this, as with COVID-19 is the older, age groups tend to have the most issues. And then looking at not having raised money, it seems like, they're kind of a little bit rock in a hard place.
I'm sure it was a very hard decision for him.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want to make that decision.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel for him.
Yeah. So you say you see that happening. Originally, you're thinking, "Oh, the city canceled it," and then you dig a little deeper.
Right. So as soon as I read it on Facebook that it was canceled, the next day I was down at the city hall getting the permit.
Okay.
Right. And my original intention was to save the parade. I like the parade. I've been in the parade with Search and Rescue before. It's nice seeing all the kids sitting on the sidewalk waving their flags. It's just a cool thing. And so it's like, well, we're gonna save the parade. I had no idea what was even involved with the parade, as I learned in the next few weeks how much was involved with just the parade.
Wow.
Had no idea. Traffic Corp, shutting down Fifth Avenue, which is a state highway, right? So then you got to have. It was like $4,000 of expense just to be able to do that.
Wow.
So I'm like, well, I'm gonna start a Facebook page. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So started a Facebook page, and it was just crazy. I mean, it's kind of like our national debt. It was just cranking, it was like going crazy. I was like, oh my gosh,
That's a great comparison.
And then I put a PayPal account out, right?
Okay.
And, please donate, see what we can get. And I think it was within the first 2 to 3 days, there was probably about $5,000
wow.
raised. And that was all from citizens of our community. It wasn't big business. It wasn't corporations. Right. It wasn't Walmart. It wasn't Home Depot. Yeah. It was mom and pop, $5, $10, $20.
Wow.
It just was going crazy.
Wow.
And it's like, and that kind of hit me. It's like, this is incredible.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, so now there's actually enough money to do a legitimate parade. Right.
That's awesome.
Pay, like it normally is. Mm-hmm. And my idea is coming from a small town. I kind of grew up around like the Clark Fork festivities, you know, with the games and the barbecue and the events and all that kind of thing. And I often wondered why Sandpoint didn't have that. We always went to the parade. Parade got over at 11 to 12, and then there was nothing in between until the fireworks at 10 o'clock at night.
Right, yeah.
So you get the family and you go out on the lake, or, you go home, take a nap, and you have dinner, right? And then you go back to town and watch the fireworks.
Yeah.
So, and talking to some of the people that I met online through Facebook, mostly, a lot of the old timers, one of them, I forget who it was, but he's like, Ron, he goes, the 4th of July in Sandpoint, back when I was young, used to be a week-long celebration. And it's like, wow, that's what I said.
Wow.
A week-long celebration, Little town America celebrating America's birthday.
Wow.
Amazing. And we can't even put together a one-day, right, celebration.
Wow.
So, I mean, that kind of touched me. It's like, well, let's start working towards that again. So I wanted to put together a festival, if you will, barbecue, events, games, things for the kids to do, things for the grown-ups to do. So, and went and changed the permit from just the downtown parade to renting Traverse Park along with that. And started organizing that. We ran into so many snafus. I started this 7 weeks before the 4th of July.
Okay.
Literally. With nothing.
Yeah.
Within that 7 weeks, we became a nonprofit corporation, got all that paperwork done. Insurance was crazy because nobody's working in their offices. So everything has to be done through email. So it would take a week to get a question asked.
Wow.
Exactly.
My.
Right. So that was a little tough. But it all came together, and then people started asking about the fireworks. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh my gosh, really? It's like, I've heard rumors that costs upwards of $40,000.
Right.
Dude, where's that going to come from? That's just not realistic.
Wow. Now who normally pays for the fireworks every year?
The Lions Club.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
So that's so funny. I always thought the city paid for the fireworks. That's so crazy.
All
right,
Lions
cool.
Club.
Wow. The Lions Club's amazing.
Totally. Yeah. And
wow.
You don't know what's involved until you walk in someone's shoes. Right?
For real, yeah.
So,
that's so true.
Hats off to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you find out, so people are now asking about fireworks.
It's like, great, So we start trying to find out who does the fireworks. We don't know. So I believe it was Steve Osilko. He was my right-hand man through
Okay.
this whole thing. Couldn't have done it without him. I literally took off 4 or 5 weeks of work to be able to do this.
Wow.
Full time is what it
Wow.
took. And I still didn't have enough time to be able to do it by myself.
Yeah.
So I asked Steve
That's amazing.
to help me with this. He found the original contractor that has been doing it for years past, contacted them and found out it was $16,500 last year's show. I was like, okay, so let's put it back on Facebook, right? So we're trying to raise $16,000 now to do the fireworks show. And we drew up a little thing, a sponsor thing, trying to get businesses involved now.
Right.
It's like it's now time
Yeah.
for our local businesses to step up.
Okay.
Donate a couple $1,000 per business, and let's have some fireworks, right? So we were able to get a couple of the businesses to donate a couple thousand. We probably had almost a dozen smaller mom and pop businesses donate $1,000 each.
Wow.
So we were getting there. And I got a phone call one morning just when I was leaving to head into town to do some more running around. And the guy was part of our Facebook page. He goes, "Hey, Ron," he goes, "are you guys still looking for what we call the founding father?" So we had like 4 or 5 different
Okay.
right,
Yeah. Some
levels.
tiers to sponsorship.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you sponsor this much money, this is what you get. If you sponsor this much, you get a little bit more, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he calls me and says, "You still looking for a founding father? Do you have a founding father sponsorship yet?" I'm like, "No." The founding father was $16,000. That was one person, one business paying for the fireworks show. And he's like, "Well, my family would like to do that." And I didn't know what to do. I'm like, "You're kidding me, right?" He goes, I'm like, "Well, what business are you?" He goes, like, "It's just our family."
Wow.
I'm like, "Really?" So Art McCauley, it was the McCauley family.
Hey, man, they're on all the posters.
They are. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
cool.
They got their own shirt.
Wow.
It was the very least that we could do. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
they were the ones that provided the fireworks show for Sandpoint this year.
So great.
And hats off to those guys.
Yeah, it was a great
awesome.
show.
It was a very great
It was
show.
a great show.
Along with that donation, we were able to put a little bit more money towards the fireworks show.
Okay.
So we threw another $3,500 at it. So we made it a $20,000 show, and we added the $3,500 into the grand finale. So the grand finale last year was 60 mortars. This year we added 190 to that 60. We had 250 mortars in that grand finale.
Come on, that was pretty spectacular.
Thanks to the community.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Wow. That is so powerful.
It is.
Yeah. So what was obviously fundraising was something that seemed to just happen naturally. Like you just put the need out there and people just stepped up.
Yeah. We didn't try very hard.
Well, you put together a website, the
right.
sandpointfourth.com.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And then not only did you were getting volunteers registered, you had
Right.
volunteer registration. So when we think about like, oh, Ron's just out there raising money. No, you've got a whole other slew of things that you're focused on. Tell me about some of the other aspects of putting this thing on that were real challenging.
Probably one of the most challenging was the insurance. Just because of the COVID, like I said earlier, not being able to sit down like you and I are and tell the agent, this is what I need, and be able to review a policy and sit there and say, well, we need our spectators covered too. We need our participants covered.
Wow.
So many exclusions.
Yeah.
So that was tough. There were a few barriers to jump through. The city was relatively great working with. I'm surprised, happily surprised. They walked us through everything that had to be done. Great to work with. The police department, they donated part of their budget to be able to cover some of their responsibilities, traffic control and stuff. So I have nothing but good things to say about the city of Sandpoint.
That's awesome. Good. Yeah, great. And it's nice when the city's just doing the city business.
It is.
Yeah.
And the businesses profited.
Yeah.
We were driving around that morning getting set up, and all the hotel parking lots were pretty full. People were coming from all over to enjoy the day. Had a great turnout. So again, it brings people to our community, which I thought was kind of the whole goal all along for the city. I mean, we're now a resort town. When I came here 20 years ago, we weren't a resort town.
Yep.
You know,
We had a resort.
we had a resort, right?
Yeah.
Now we're a
It's
resort
different.
town.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you say about just talking about bringing people into town? Some of the people that were detractors to the event and that were upset that the event was happening, really, from what I could tell, and I haven't had any direct conversations, just seeing the hubbub on social media, right? Is that, bringing a lot of people into the community was dangerous because of COVID, and that it was not a wise decision, or it wasn't being thoughtful or considerate of people who could be, struggling with that. What was kind of your take on all that?
So we were concerned about that. We were concerned about maybe the city pulling our permit because of that. So Steve and I actually went around the Friday before, and we drove through City Beach, and we videotaped up and down each row, the license plates.
Wow.
And I would say maybe 30% of the license plates in that City Beach, which was packed, was local, 7B.
Or 7B, yeah.
Everybody else was Washington, Montana,
California,
Ferry,
Oregon,
New York, Minnesota, Nevada.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Colorado, Canada.
Right.
Yeah.
So we just kind of wanted to have some proof if something was going to come up and say, hey, this is our concerns, Ron. It's like, they're already here. They've been here for weeks, and they're here for the summer.
Yep.
So this did not bring any more of an influx than what was already coming.
Okay, that makes sense. I was talking to Sheriff Wheeler a couple years ago, and he's like, "Are you aware that, our county population's just over 40,000 for full-time residents, but in the summer it's 120,000.
Crazy, huh?
Like our population triples in the summer, and I don't, I saw some people concerned about like, wow, it feels so busy down. I'm like, we're not at half population influx right now. We're not I don't think that we're twice. I don't think we have 80,000. I bet you there's still a ton of vacant second homes that people aren't traveling. They're not doing a lot of stuff right now. So, and then maybe I'm wrong, but to me, it does not seem like we're near what we've been
this year than in the past years.
Totally. Well, and you could also see that at the turnout at the parade. It was a lot smaller. Right. It was a good turnout, but it was smaller. Right. Which is expected.
Right.
Yeah.
The festival was smaller than I anticipated. We didn't get the influx of people.
So let's talk about the festival, because you were talking about this week-long festivities, and there were some things that were happening when you would grow up with the 4th of July, and you wanted to bring some of that here. What did you do with that? I think you set up at Traverse Park, right?
Set up at Traverse Park.
Tell us about that.
We had gunny sack races, three-legged races. We had a limbo set up, which was fun to watch. Tug of war, and we had the dunk tank, which was a huge hit.
Andy was saying the water was cold.
Yes. Yep. We had David Watkins. He was number 2 in the tank. He's the security guy at the high school. And I kind of felt bad because after he got out, I walked over and I'm like, thank you so much for helping us out. He says, oh, no problem, I shook his hand and it was ice cold. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, So I'm like, you got to come over and eat real quick,
hilarious.
So we brought him over, gave him a burger and everything, trying to warm him up. Next year we might cut it down to 30 minutes instead of 45.
Smart. Yeah.
But really appreciate the people volunteering. And it's all in fun.
How many volunteers did you end up getting for the events?
Oh, boy. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I'm guessing probably 50 or 60 people.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Awesome.
It was really nice. So we had the financial part of it covered. We had the time covered. It takes time and money.
Yep.
And it all worked. And it was because I feel the people wanted to get out and do something. It's
Yeah.
been months
Yeah.
since we've been able to do something and socialize and interact with people.
Yeah.
Talk to them face to face.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
just hasn't been happening.
No.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's my heart goes out to the small businesses that have been under different they've lost a lot
yep.
over this whole process. It's sad, but unfortunately there's we don't know until we know.
Exactly.
We can't revise history.
Right.
This is one of the things that drives me crazy is so many people, look backwards as if they had the answer then.
Right.
We just have new information now. So,
It's always easy to look backwards,
back and go,
we shoulda.
Yeah. Or if, can't believe you made that decision.
Right.
It's like, oh, come on. We cannot
Right.
fault people for that stuff. So, we deal with what we know. And I think that it was just awesome to see, the parade go off so smoothly without a hitch. Now, I know that you guys really said up front that your goal was to unite the community and not to be divisive or divide the community. What were some things that you did to try and make sure that was a good, that actually happened?
So that was going back to one of your previous questions. I guess you're talking about some of the hard parts, I guess, of putting this on.
Okay. Yeah.
And this might have been one of them too,
Okay.
along with the insurance. So people that know me and people that follow me on social media know that, and I'm not going to put myself in a box, but I would be considered a conservative.
Okay.
I don't really consider myself a Republican.
Okay.
When people ask me, well, what party are you with? I'm an American. I think that the divisiveness has to go away. Steve, my right-hand man, is very vocal on social media.
Very.
And it's a time and that we all need to
and
start
I'm not
standing
faulting
up.
that.
Not one bit.
Yep, not
one
faulting
bit.
it. On the left and the right, I think as long as you can use some critical thinking, let's
It's time to stand up. We can all, voice our opinions.
Mm-hmm.
As we did talked earlier, we all have opinions.
Yeah.
But we really need to try and start basing our opinions more on facts instead of feelings. So one of the issues that we had was, I'm a conservative. I'm a militia member.
Mm-hmm.
I even founded a militia here in town. So I've got that going for me or against me, depending on what side you're on.
Sure, absolutely.
Steve Wasilko, very outspoken, Second Amendment. That's his business. He's an FFL dealer. Obviously, he's going to support the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
Patriot. So by the two of us teaming up together to do this, the other side, if you will, starts thinking that, we're going to have the militias. This is going to be a militia party. All the militias from the Northwest are going to be in the 4th of July parade. Excuse me. All these weird things that they're thinking might happen.
So they are making some assumptions,
right,
about what you are thinking.
Yes. Okay. So I was trying to walk a very straight and narrow path. Mm-hmm. So I wanted it to be a family event. I want it to be family friendly. What would I want to see at a 4th of July parade? Granted, that's still my views and my opinions. But I don't want to see far left extreme and I don't want to see far right extreme.
Okay.
This is celebrating America's birthday.
Yeah.
It's not your time to come out and flaunt your rights or your beliefs in everybody's faces.
Okay.
So we try to make it very clear. As I said earlier, I'm a Christian, and I had a person approach me and they wanted their church to have a float. I'm like, yeah, that's not a problem, And they wanted to have the kids up there singing glory and praise to God. And I'm like, you know what? I totally 110% agree with you and your message. But this year, I'm really trying to keep it strictly towards America's birthday. So if they want us to get up there and sing the national anthem or do the Pledge of Allegiance,
or God Bless America or whatever,
totally,
Great. Okay.
You're more than welcome. But this year, I've got to walk this line.
Okay.
And I think I did a very good job at doing that.
So what's just for people to give perspective on what you would consider, what would you be considering to be far left stuff that you'd try to avoid, and then far right things that you would try to avoid?
Far left, BLM.
Okay.
I would consider that a far left movement.
Okay.
Antifa.
Sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Is Antifa going to come in and celebrate America's birthday? I don't think so. Far right. Maybe the anti-abortion
Okay.
people.
Okay.
Okay. I think
Yep.
that would be far right.
The AHA, the Abolish Human Abortion Group.
Right.
Okay.
You know, the kids at that parade don't need to see the pictures that have been displayed in the past. Some people might think the far right would include the militias, even though the militias are actually part of our Constitution and America. But I kept them out. So
Okay,
I did
great.
the best that I think I could, even
Okay.
though some people are still saying they see
They're complaining about
a Blue
some
Lives
flags.
Matter flag or something.
Yep,
It's like,
some
are
flags.
you kidding me?
Yep.
You know, so there's obviously has to be some negative message for those people.
Absolutely.
And that's what
Yep.
it was.
Yeah, it's a really because of the polarization in our community, it really is like the ability to walk down the thin, narrow line in the middle and basically the middle that says red, white, and blue, and that's it. And that is a very difficult thing because everyone associates America differently with different things, right?
Right.
You know, like I think BLM would associate America, at least from my conversations, would associate America with oppression versus freedom.
Crazy.
I mean, it's right. So
Right.
that's where it's like actually the American flag is offensive to some people, and so even just celebrating America, well, they're not going to show up for that because they're not celebrating America.
Right.
Not saying that that's how everyone on that side thinks, but that is a common thread. You know, and on the right, the Gadsden flag, right? Like
Exactly.
that concept of don't tread on me, which is
Right.
on your cup, which is fine.
That's
right.
right.
Like I think that there's actually a legitimate place of understanding the history of some of this stuff and where it comes from and why it's there instead of like, oh, that's just racist.
Right.
Or just, you know, whatever. And I think that that's the accusations. To me, the accusations have been the hardest thing to watch on the left and the right, you know, of taking people's viewpoints and then twisting it into something it's not.
Right.
That's hard.
Right.
That's hard.
And I
But we got to be
blame
careful with it.
education. So our kids aren't being educated on our history. We've got these people, I don't know who, I don't know if it's BLM people or whoever is tearing down our statutes. Okay, whether that person was a good person or a bad person doesn't really matter. He's that statute's there for a reason. To show or prove that he did something good in history or even bad in history. That's who it was. The Gadsden flag. I don't know how you make that into a white supremacist flag because at some point in time there was a KKK rally somewheres that
Guilt by
displayed it.
association. Yep.
And so now all of a sudden that flag is a white supremacist flag. So you can take the Antifa flag on the other hand or a BLM flag.
Right, and you can associate it with a lot of different
a white
things.
supremacist rally and display it. Now all of a sudden the BLM flag is now a white supremacist. Give me a break. I don't think
Yeah.
they would agree with that,
Yeah.
huh?
Well, there's a guilt by association that's happening, you know, across the board. You know, it's like even online, you know, we are, you know, part of my conversation with Ryan and even, you know, with Andy and different people that I've had this conversation with is, you know, part of the current tension in our environment is that people are really bad at mind reading. We're really bad at judging somebody's motive and character and what's in their heart based on things that I don't like. And I just see it happening constantly on all sides.
And not even our place to judge people, is it?
Well, yeah. I mean,
Why was I being judged before something even took place?
yeah, well,
Why not
somebody
wait to see
believed
what happens?
something about you, right?
Right.
Yeah, they
Yep.
prejudged it. Yeah. So it's challenging. We're in a really challenging environment, and I really give you a lot of props for trying to keep that as down the middle as possible, because that's a hard task to do.
It was hard. I had to put my personal beliefs aside.
Yeah.
And people may not realize that.
Okay.
It was hard to do. But for the greater good of the events,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I can put that aside.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. So, kind of, what's your big takeaways from the event? That was like some of the big highlights, and some things that you might do different. Let's start with the highlights.
The highlights. I missed the parade because I was setting up at Traverse Park. So I'm watching the parade through social media, and watching and reading some of the comments. And it just blows me away. Highlights, meaning, people are writing in on our Facebook page saying that they've been to every one for the last 40 years. And this was the best one they've ever been to. For whatever reason. I'm not sure. Maybe it was because they're coming out of the house for the first time. I don't know. Right? You know,
they've been locked up too long.
I don't want to say that it was the best parade that there's ever been. I don't think that was the case. I think it was the atmosphere, the environment.
Yeah.
Everybody was happy. Everybody was cheerful. Everybody was supportive. So the highlights obviously was bringing the community together. 1,700 people on that Facebook page.
1,800.
1,800.
I checked it this morning.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I'm not going to say like-minded, like left or right. Americans. 1,800 people, Americans with American values coming together.
Yeah.
Which hasn't been seen, I don't think, basically since 9/11.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
9/11, you couldn't see a car without an American flag on it.
Better believe it. Yeah.
Right? And that was before our division from the left and the right. That wasn't even existing yet.
Yeah.
Now, I challenge everybody to show me the American flag somewhere on their Facebook page. Where is it? Are you an American?
Yeah.
Be proud of who you are. Stand up.
Yep. And that has nothing to do with origin or where you came from, or because the concept, and I hear what you're saying, because sometimes I think we've been taught that, or I shouldn't say taught, but it's been pushed that in order to have pride in being American, you have to complicitly agree with every negative thing that's happened or whatever. And that's not the case, because the reality is that America is a set of ideas.
Right.
It's a set of ideas, and it's been imperfectly worked out. Like Abraham Lincoln said, we're working towards a more perfect union,
right.
which means it takes work to get there, but there's a better way. And it's founded, seems like the idea would be that it's founded in the principles.
It is.
On the founding of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and some of these things that were never happened before on the planet.
Right.
Incredible. It had never been there.
Yes.
So all that to say, I can see that was that's a challenge to say, okay, can we at least unify around one thing?
One thing.
Yeah.
Be proud of who you are. Be proud that you're an American. And you're talking about that isn't the color of your skin.
Right.
It isn't your race. It isn't your religion.
Yeah.
It isn't where you came from.
Yeah.
I'm not a supporter of this hyphenated American crap. I'm not. This African American. Well, what is that? What does that make me? Irish American? German American?
Yeah.
Do I use a hyphenated because my skin color is white? I don't. Right? And neither should they. Interesting thing, many years ago, I used to do gun shows. And I was at a gun show in Orange County, California. And a friend of mine made patriotic shirts. So I was there selling t-shirts. And the shirt I was wearing had a pocket print on it, and it said 100% American. And this Mexican guy comes up, and he's looking at my table, and kind of eyeing everything. And you could kind of see the wheels turning. And I'm like, oh, here we go, right? It's going to be some kind of confrontation. He looks up at me, he looks at my shirt, and he goes, 100% American, huh? I said, yep. And he goes, well, what's that make me? Kind of with his face on, right? And I'm like, are you an American citizen? He's like, yeah. I go, that makes you 100% American too.
Yep.
And he didn't know how to respond. He walked away. It's true.
Yeah.
We got to get over the stereotype that I'm a Mexican American. I'm an African American. I'm a Latino American. No, there's no such thing. You're an American or you're not.
It's really interesting because there's one of the concepts, I've been studying a lot recently on this stuff because of the conflict that we're having here locally around issues like BLM, around what we would call identity politics, right? This concept that based on someone's external appearance should be the monolithic view of that whole group, should vote one way, should look one way, should all carry the same grievances.
Put you in that box.
Yes. And it's so unhealthy. And not that there's not grievances to be dealt with. I'm not saying that. Not saying that there hasn't been victimization, that there hasn't been these issues. But I don't know how maintaining those group identities really pushes forward a healthy healing process. I'm trying to, because my heart's like, okay, well, how do we heal? How do we get past some of this stuff? And the more that we point backwards, and the more that we point at the immutable characteristics of people, whether it's their skin color or their origin, like you can't change that.
Right.
So the more that we point at the things that can't be changed, we'll never be able to move forward to change.
Right.
And so it's just one of those like struggles that I've like, I don't know how. I'm open to all those conversations, but
we got to come out of our box. We got to quit saying I'm a Republican. Got to quit saying I'm a Democrat.
Yeah.
I'm a liberal.
Yeah.
I'm a conservative.
Yeah.
Right. I got to quit saying I'm Latino. We're Americans. If we can't unite under our flag,
okay,
what are we going to come together as? Some of the city councilmen here are wanting to bring people together. We need to create unity instead of division. My challenge is how are you going to do that? Are we all going to become conservatives? Nope. Are we all going to become liberals?
Nope.
Yeah. What, are all of us going to support BLM, or all of us going to support the militias, or all of us going to support the Second Amendment? No, we're not.
Yep.
So the only thing that I can see is coming together as Americans.
Wow.
Under the flag.
Yep.
We should all be flying our flag and be proud of it.
Yeah.
That flag gives me the rights and the liberties to do the things that I want to do.
And to complain and to protest and to do all the things that we want to do. It comes through that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. I'm challenged often for me, I think one of the top priorities for a healthy community is to focus more on relationships than on just being right. Like really building relationships with people you disagree with. Like, how do you become friends with somebody that you don't necessarily agree with politically? Well, don't make politics the top priority because they're human.
Exactly.
Right? They got a family, they got a life, they got things that they're striving for that they want to have happen. So the more we focus on the stuff that we can't change or the stuff that we disagree on, the less unity that we have.
Right.
So we've got to change the focus a little bit. And Joel Aspiro said something really interesting. He said, he was on last week, and he said, maybe we should have less focus on national politics locally. Because his concept being that the more that we focus on our division nationally, the less unity we can have locally.
So politics in general. Yeah. Then, because even our city politics, right?
Sure.
So I don't know I don't even know if we could say let's have less focus on our national.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
So what's the difference between our national politics and our city and county politics? It is no different.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I'm on social media. You're on social media. I see people bashing our elected officials.
Yep.
On both sides of the spectrum, right?
Yep.
Our mayor gets bashed.
Yep.
Our commissioners get bashed.
Yep.
Right?
A lot. On both sides. It's pretty crazy.
It is. But yet, in order to fix the problems, and what I see as problems, other people may not, But in order to fix our problems, we need to become involved in our local government,
Correct, yeah.
our state government, and our national government. You and I aren't going to change anything with our federal government. I always thought we could, right? Oh yeah, Superman, we can do this. You're not, But the one thing we can control is our own area of operation,
Yep.
our county, our
Yep.
city,
Yep.
right? We actually have enough input, enough say to change our local government. And by doing so, then we can work on our state government.
Yep. Yep. And I think what Joel was referring to is don't make the priority the federal issues here locally. Like let the local
right.
issues be the local issues here, and then we
Right.
can move forward from
Right.
that.
What is the
which makes
point
sense. Yeah.
to that? I would have to
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah.
What is the point talking
Yeah.
about Trump or Biden
Yep.
when we're dealing with local issues?
Yep.
It doesn't make any difference.
People are going to sit on a different side of the fence, and it's consistently 50-50 across the nation.
Right.
It's not a huge number difference, and I think
Right.
people think that we're in the majority. No, it's 50-50. It's split.
It is.
So we got to live together on some points.
Yep.
I think it was funny. There's so many different aspects of national politics through social media that bleeds into the local politics, and part of it is taking sides. Part of it is trying to have our viewpoints affirmed. Like we want people to this is how I feel, and I want to find people I agree with that feel the same way that I do.
Well, that's why there's so many churches and everything else, right?
Come on.
That's
Absolutely.
Why,
Yep. But can we be uncomfortable with not having that all the time?
Yeah.
I think you have to be.
If that's the price we got to
Yeah.
pay, that's a small price.
Yeah, small price, little discomfort.
Yep. And I mean, people that don't know me just by social media, think that I'm just this person. When in reality, I've got friends that are Democrats.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't just have my own little bubble, and those are my friends. My friends are a broad spectrum of people, and we are able to put our differences aside and still shake hands and talk when we meet each other at the grocery store. That's nice. When we can't do that, we got a serious problem.
Yeah. Yep. Good. Well, you have any other thoughts for us today? Any other comments about the 4th of July? What's the plan for next year? Have you talked to Lions Club or anything about how to move forward? Okay.
I don't know where it's heading yet.
Okay.
It was recuperation week last week.
Well, and it was funny because I'm like, hey, can we get you on before? You're like, no, not going to happen.
Sorry.
I'm like, all right. All right, let's give it a week and then have you on, which is good. So,
Totally.
yeah.
Life's starting to get back to normal, whatever that is. No, but I mean, we're willing and able to go ahead and do this again next year.
Okay.
We're kind of hoping that we're going to go ahead and do it again next year. That is our plan.
Well, and I think of creating a maybe a broader alliance or partnership with Lions Club might be really nice.
Yep.
Increase the numbers in the community supporting it.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I don't know yet. Like I said,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to finish paying the last few bills that we have and
good.
get my mindset back on the family and my work.
Well, that's a huge shift to go from full-time to nothing for 5 weeks throwing this thing together. So thank you again for putting in the work to make it happen. I think a lot of people were super grateful.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It was well worth it. Just
Yeah.
meeting new people and seeing the appreciation on Facebook. That's what it's all about. And I'm no one special, Chris. I'm a builder guy. I got a hammer. I got some tools. I build things, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a politician. I'm no one special. What I would like to see is more people standing up in our country, in our state. We complain. We're really good at complaining.
Yeah, right.
Oh, our fireworks show got canceled. And everyone starts complaining, right? Do something about it.
Right.
Fix it. Make it better.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Well, that's why I started the show.
Yeah.
Because I'm like I have conversations with people, and if I listen to the letters to the editor,
Right.
I wouldn't have conversations with some people.
Right.
If I listened to, like, if I looked at a single topic and just saw the article in the paper, which sometimes are really accurate and sometimes are a little biased, well, whatever, it's media. But, well, do I really get to know the person? Do I really get to hear what they're thinking? No.
There's no
And
interaction.
even like, so I work on housing, so I work with helping local families find places to live and find places that are affordable and help give them some tools to afford owning homes. Like, that's been my primary goal here for 10 years with the housing agency.
Right on.
And we use some federal funding. We use loans from the federal government, which is great because they're loans. I like that they're loans. I like that gets paid out. We get some different grant money for operations and things. But, to me, it's like, well, you got to do something about it.
Right.
So just like what you're saying. So it's like, I'm tired of not actually, like, I'm developing relationships across the city and the county in my role as in housing. And at the end of the day, I'm like, these guys have different issues that they're dealing with that nobody actually knows about. Like, nobody has a clue. We're just listening to the loudest voice.
Right.
So what if we could sit? I was in a group at one of the Bonner regional team meetings, and I asked everybody, if you could sit down for an hour and have a conversation about that topic, and have it be either live or on video, and then have that go out on your social media so that you could explain something fully. Right.
Awesome,
like really, and almost every single hand in the room went up. Like, I would be willing to do that, which is why we have county commissioners on, which is why we have the mayor and city council people on as often as we do, is because this is a platform for them to get it all out and to ask questions and to be curious and to find some things out. So you're so right on. I think there is so many opportunities for people to step up to the plate and do the things that they need to do, and to do it in a respectful, honoring way of one another, even honoring our differences.
Yep, because we're Americans.
We're Americans. That's good. That's good. I like that. Awesome. Well, didn't mean to monologue there for too long, but so any other thoughts for the viewers today? Any last thoughts you want to leave everybody with, Ron?
Just stand up and be an American, man.
Okay.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
We got to get united again.
I think it's coming.
I think so.
I think it's coming. I don't think it's going to happen the way we think it will.
Right.
It's not going to be like everybody just agrees with you suddenly.
Nah, it's not
going to
happen.
But I think some things are going to shift here, and it might be a really hard move to get there, but I'm hoping we get there. So who knows?
I hope so.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. And who knows? As we head into 4th of July next year, I'll have you back on, and we'll see what's happening.
It'll be easier next year.
No doubt. Well, thanks again, Rod. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Yep. All right.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. You can find out more about this podcast at bonnerbreakdown.com. You can also support this show and get personal video updates and thoughts from our host at patreon.com/bonnerbreakdown. Thank you for joining us in the conversation.